11.2 talks about natural selections in populations. So those that are not able to find food, shelter, and water, are not able to reproduce, most likely will not survive in their populations. Remember, populations from 11.1 share a common gene pool. And a gene pool, just so you have this written down as well, a gene pool, think about a pool that you swim in. It's all the water is in there, and this is the same thing, but it's a gene pool. It's the combined alleles of all the individuals in a population. So you've got different combinations of alleles in that gene pool, and it can be formed when organisms mate and have offspring. Um, and that continues to evolve, obviously, over time. So populations share a common gene pool. That gene pool is the combined alleles of all the individuals in a population. And so from 11.1, it's all the allele combinations of the frogs that were in that specific population. The penguins in this scenario is they share a common gene pool. So now with this one, we're going to talk about how these populations will evolve. And they evolve because of natural selection. So natural selection is going to act on distributions of specific traits. So here, and it's important to draw these bell curves. A normal distribution graphs are bell-shaped. They have a high frequency near the mean, the average, and then they decrease towards each extreme value. A population follows a normal distribution when that population is not under any sort of natural selection for a specific trait. So traits not undergoing natural selection have a normal distribution. This rarely ever occurs because traits are always kind of undergoing natural selection because you've got predators out there that like a certain size egg. And so egg shape, egg color, egg size will change over time due to natural selection. The coloration of specific animals could change. So those are all traits that are undergoing natural selection in an environment. And we're going to talk about how there are different types of selection that undergo natural selection. So you've got different traits that are favored in a population, and those that are favored are going to survive. Before we talk about those three, we have to talk about microevolution. Microevolution is basically evolution within a population. You can see these changes in the allele frequencies. And remember what allele frequencies are. They are a measure of how common a certain allele is in a population. And this all results from natural selection. So again, microevolution is evolution within that specific population. The first one, like I said, there's three different paths it can take. Directional selection. Write this down and draw this picture out. This favors phenotypes at one specific extreme. The graph you should see the normal bell shape, but in a directional, it's going to favor, natural selection will favor those phenotypes of one extreme or the other. So by favoring, we mean that those with that extreme trait will survive and will evolve or will reproduce and have more offspring. In this example, you have antibiotic drugs put pressure on bacteria populations. So those bacteria with low resistance will go through the process of natural selection and will not survive. Those bacteria with high drug resistant, one extreme phenotype, are going to survive the antibiotic drugs. And when they survive, they're evolving, they're changing, and they're going to reproduce. So in this case, a directional selection is going to favor an extreme phenotype, one or the other. And in this case, the high drug resistant is favored. And again, by favored, I mean it's going to survive. Those with low drug resistant are not going to survive. Stabilizing selection favors the intermediate phenotype. So woodpeckers and wasps put pressure on gull fly populations. This is the example. Here's your normal bell distribution in the red dotted, and then you have your stabilizing distribution. So those that are too small of a size, those wasps are going to lay their eggs on those gull flies, and they're going to die out because they're too small in size, and those wasps are going to take them. The woodpeckers obviously are also putting pressure on the size of the gull fly because they see them and they eat them. And so if the gull fly is too large, it's getting eaten by the woodpecker. If it's too small, the wasp is attracted to them. And so those that are intermediate or middle or stabilizing, that intermediate name, that's what you're looking for, the middle. In size, they're going to survive. They're going to be favored. They're going to be able to reproduce and make more offspring. Those that are too small or too large are going to naturally be taken out of the population. Stabilizing selection favors the intermediate, the middle. And then finally, disruptive selection favors both extreme. So we started with directional that favored one extreme, and now disruptive is favoring both extremes. So you can see an example, dominant adult males put pressure on young males in the bunting population. Here's your normal distribution, and then you've got distribution after the disruptive selection. So those that are blue in color or brown in color in the phenotype colors are going to survive. Those that are a little bit of both may not get the female. In the middle, obviously, you can see the bell shape is almost upside down. And so those in the middle with that phenotype, both brown and blue, may not be able to reproduce and pass on their traits. Those that are that bright blue or that bright dominant brown coloration are going to reproduce and pass on their traits because females are going to pick them. So you have disruptive, which favors both extremes. Those in the middle are going to die out. Those on the extremes with the extreme phenotypes are going to survive and pass on their traits. Stabilizing, which is going to be favoring the middle, the intermediate. Those that are in the middle, whatever that might be, whatever that phenotype is, they're going to survive. And then directional is going to be favoring one extreme or the other. So you're going to do a little bit of practice with this when we come back. So make sure you have all three natural selections paths, the directional, the stabilizing, and the disruptive. If you have questions, please bring them to the Google Meets with your teacher.